Your practical for today is serological reactions. So, what is an antigen? Antigen is any substance which on introduction in the body induces the production of antibodies. So, those substances are called antigen. And what is antibody? Antibodies are substances that are produced when any antigen enters the body. Okay? So, an antigen-antibody reactions that takes place in vitro is called serological reactions. So basically in serological reactions, we will study the antigen and antibody reactions in vitro. That is the procedures and the tests that we conduct routinely in our labs. What are the specific characteristics of any serological reactions? So first is there is always a specific reaction, that is there is a specific antigen which leads the production of its specific antibody. The whole antigen combines to the antibody and the antigen-antibody reactions takes place. So entire molecule is present, not any fragment. Then there is no denaturation of any antigen during the procedure. Then both the antigen and antibody reacts in the procedure and they either produce any agglutination clumps or any precipitates. And antigen and antibody combine in varying proportions. These are the various characteristics of antigen and antibody. Now we shall see different types of serological reactions. So first is the precipitation test. What is precipitation? Precipitation is that when a soluble antigen combines with its antibody in presence of electrolytes at an optimum temperature and pH, it forms a precipitate. Precipitate is that antigen and antibody settles down and it is visibly seen. So it is called precipitation reaction. And in the same procedure, if the precipitates floats on the surface and it does not settle down, then it is called flocculation. So in this test, there is optimum concentration of antigen and antibody, that is antigen and antibody are in the same proportion. If there is excess of antibody, then it is called prozone phenomena, and if there is excess of antigen, it is called post-zone phenomena. So for precipitation reaction, we require zone of equivalence, that is antigen and antibody should be in equal proportion. This is called precipitation reaction. Now we will see the examples, the tests which we routinely perform for precipitation. So first is the VDRL test that we perform for syphilis, diagnosis of syphilis. Okay. So in the VDRL test was earlier used for diagnosis of syphilis, which is not commonly used now. What we used to do in VDRL test? In VDRL test, there is a cardiolipin antigen, a cholesterol and a lecithin which is combined together and it is reconstituted before the use of the test. So we have a preparation in which there is a cardiolipin antigen, cholesterol and lecithin which is commercially available readily. In that we have to add serum, patient's serum. The patient's serum is preheated before the procedure and serum and this reconstituted portion is added and then visible precipitates are seen. This is the VDRL test which is not used now. The more commonly used test for diagnosis of syphilis now is RPR test. RPR is rapid plasma reagent test. This is the card which is commonly used for syphilis test for RPR test. It is a white colored card which has several holes in which the test can be performed. Now what is the procedure of RPR test? In this test we have a readily available antigen. Okay, so commercially available antigen is available and it is combined with a carbon particle, so it is black in color, and if the antibodies are present in patient's serum, then antigen and antibody combines on the surface and visible flocculations are seen. Visible floccules are seen. What are floccules? Floccules are the particles, carbon particles which floats on the surface. So this is the RPR card in which we add the antigen, the carbon coated antigen and patient's serum, and if the reaction is positive, then black color floccules are seen on the surface. This is called RPR test. So in the precipitation reaction, we have basically two types of tests which are usually used. One is the VDRL test for syphilis and other one is RPR test again for syphilis, which is more commonly used. The advantages of RPR over syphilis test are that we don't need to heat the serum. Other way is many samples, it is more sensitive, more number of samples can be tested at a time, and the reagent which is used is already prepared. You don't need to prepare it freshly. No need of reconstitution, and it can be used for several number of tests. So this is precipitation reaction. Okay, so this was precipitation in liquid medium. The other type of precipitation is precipitation in gel. In this test, what we use is, in between the antigen and antibody, a layer of gel is used in which the antigen and antibody combine, and we can see a visible precipitation line. We have put this procedure in the charts which will be attached along with this, so you can see exactly what the procedure is. So in precipitation of gel, there are mainly two main types, that is immunodiffusion and electroimmunodiffusion. In the immunodiffusion test, what we use is a single dimension and double dimensions are used, and the purpose behind the test is antigen and antibody. We have antigen and antibody, and a layer of gel is placed in between them, and after antigen and antibody combine, there is a visible precipitation line which can be seen, and this is done in single diffusion and in one dimension and in two dimensions. And the other type is electroimmunodiffusion. If in the same procedure we use electricity for combining antigen and antibody, then it is called electroimmunodiffusion. So this is precipitation in gel medium. So we had precipitation in liquid medium and precipitation in gel. In precipitation in liquid medium, the tests commonly used are VDRL and RPR test, and in precipitation in gel, we use immunodiffusion and electroimmunodiffusion. So this is precipitation reaction. So the second reaction is agglutination reaction. What is agglutination? When an antigen combines with antibody in presence of solute at optimum temperature and pH, the visible reaction, that is the reaction that we see on combine of antibody and antigen, is agglutination clumps. That is, visibly we can see the clumps, the precipitates or particles that are settling down at the bottom, and this reaction is called agglutination reaction. So antigen and antibody that combines in presence of solute at optimum temperature and pH is called agglutination reaction. Now agglutination reactions are basically of two types. One is active and other one is passive. In the active agglutination test, we do not require any carrier particle to perform the reaction, and in the passive test, a carrier particle is required. A carrier particle can be anything, a bacteria or a carbon particle or a latex particle, and in the active agglutination test, we do not require any active particle. So the agglutination reaction is of two main types, active and passive. Active is without a carrier particle and passive is along with the carrier particle. Now in the passive agglutination test, if we use blood, then it is called hemagglutination test. Okay, and in this procedure, if antibody is used instead of antigen, then it is called reverse passive agglutination test. Okay, so passive agglutination test is basically of two types. First is direct and indirect. First is direct and other one is reverse. In the direct test, we use the particles like bacteria, carbon, latex, etc. And in the other one, we use antibody instead of antigen, then it is called reverse passive agglutination test. And if the erythrocyte particle, that is RBC, is used in the passive agglutination test, then it is called hemagglutination test. Okay, and the most common example of this test, agglutination test, is RA test, ASO test and CRP test. This black colored slide is used for RASO, ASO and CRP test. First we shall see the ASO test. ASO is anti-streptolysin O test. Okay. So in this test, what and streptolysin O antigen is detected from patient's serum. So in this test, we add patient's serum and anti-streptolysin O antigen on this slide, and a visible agglutination reaction is seen if the test is positive. So in this test, this is a black colored slide. Patient's serum is added, and along with that anti-streptolysin O is added, and if the test is positive, then we can see visible agglutinates. The visible agglutinates will be seen as white colored particles in black background in this test. So it is called a positive test for anti-streptolysin O. And then the other common example is CRP test. CRP is C-reactive protein. So if C-reactive protein, that is CRP antigen, is present in patient's serum, then we have antibodies against the CRP coated in the readily available solutions. The antibodies are available, and the CRP in the patient's serum is added to it, and if the reaction is positive, then we can see visible white clumps in that. So this is CRP reaction. And the third common example is RA factor. So if the IgM antibodies are present in patient's serum, then we have latex coated IgG particles in the commercially available reagent. So patient's serum and this commercially available RA reagent is added on this slide, and then if the reaction is positive, we can see the visible white colored clumps on the plate. So these are the most common examples of agglutination test, and this is slide which is used for agglutination test. Now other example for agglutination is Vidal test. In Vidal test, two types of tests are conducted. One is the slide agglutination and other one is the tube agglutination. This is the slide used for slide agglutination in Vidal test. It is a white colored slide. White color slide used for Vidal agglutination reaction. Now Vidal, what is the use of Vidal test? Vidal is used to detect the Salmonella infection in patient's blood. Vidal test usually becomes positive in after the first week, that is in the second week of infection, and after that the Vidal test becomes positive. So we detect Salmonella in Vidal test, and there are two types of tests, slide test and tube test. So in Vidal, in the Salmonella, we have majorly two types of antigen. One is O antigen and other one is H antigen. The O antigen is somatic antigen and H is flagellar antigen. Now Vidal test is used to detect Salmonella typhi, Salmonella paratyphi A and Salmonella paratyphi B. So the O antigen, which is the somatic antigen, is common in all the infections, and the H antigen, that is the flagellar antigen, is varying in all the three types. So in Salmonella typhi infection, we have O and H antigen, and for paratyphi A and B, we have AH and BH, that is the flagellar antigen for that. So the antigen used in Vidal test are O antigen, H antigen, AH and BH. So we have four circles in the slide Vidal test. One is for O, other is for H, then AH and BH. Okay, so four kinds of antigens are used: O, H, AH and BH. Now what do we do in the procedure? So we collect 5 to 7 ml of patient's blood, and after centrifuging, the serum which is available is added in all the four circles, and in that we add the antigens, that is the O antigen, H antigen, AH and BH. Then it is rotated for 1 to 2 minutes, and after that visible agglutination reaction, that is visible agglutinated clumps are seen on the slides. If the clumps are seen, then it is a positive test, and if it remains a uniform mixture, then it is negative test. The importance of Vidal test is its serial dilution, that is the titer of the Vidal test. The Vidal test becomes positive after the first week, that is in the second week of infection, and titer keeps on increasing in the second and third week, and after the fourth week the titer decreases. So the serial dilution and titer is very important in the diagnosis and treatment of Salmonella typhi. So significance of Vidal test is that the titer should gradually increase in the second and third week, and it should decline in the fourth week. This is the importance of Vidal test. Now this was the slide which we were using for Vidal, and the other one is the tube test. In the tube test we have the similar procedure in which test tubes are available and patient's serum is added, and those test tube in which we have patient's serum are serially diluted. Serial dilution is that we have distilled water available, and in that we serially dilute patient's serum in various concentrations and then add the antigens, that is the O antigen, H, AH and BH in same proportion, and after that it is incubated in water bath for 24 hours. The serially diluted serum is incubated for 24 hours and then the results are interpreted. The results which are seen in tube are agglutination reactions only, but they have specific type of clumps that can be seen in so we have different type of clumps seen in O and H. For O, the test tubes which are showing positive for O antigen, that is the clumps, we have chalky and powdery type of clumps. So the test tubes which are showing positive for O antigen will have chalky and powdery type of clumps available, and the test tubes which are showing positive for H clumps will show cottony woolly clumps. So after 24 hours of examination, when you see the test tubes, you will see, if you see chalky powdery type of clumps, it is positive for H antigen, for O antigen, and if you see cottony woolly type of clumps, it is positive for O antigen. So this is the interpretation of tube Vidal test. And there are serial dilutions in which the test is done. The dilutions are in the concentration of 40 to 80 to 180 to 160. This is given in the we have attached various charts along with this video, so you can see the serial dilutions on how the Vidal test is performed and in what concentration it is performed. So this is agglutination reaction. Okay, so the third one is complement fixation test. In this test we detect and quantify the antibodies which cannot be precipitated and agglutinated. So it is demonstrated by complement fixation test. In complement fixation test, 5 reagents are required, that is antigen, antibody, a complement, a sheep erythrocyte and a rabbit antibodies. And the most common example of complement fixation test is Wassermann's test for Treponema pallidum, but this is not commonly used test. The fourth one is neutralization test. In neutralization test, there is optimum concentration of antigen and antibodies which reacts and produce a level of neutralization. And in this test, virus neutralization test and toxin neutralization tests are commonly used. And the toxins which commonly are used are Schick's test for demonstration of diphtheria and Dig test which is used for to know the immune status of patient in scarlet. And in vitro toxin neutralization test is more commonly used is Nagler's reaction which we used for Clostridium. So in neutralization test, the most commonly used test is an in vitro test, in vitro toxin. So the most commonly used reaction is in vitro toxin neutralization test, which is Nagler's reaction used for Clostridium. Okay, so the fifth type is the immunoassay test. In immunoassay, various kinds of tests are used, that is the radioimmunoassay, then fluorescence immunoassay and ELISA test. So The most commonly immunoassay test used is the ELISA test. ELISA is enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. So, as the name suggests, there is an enzyme that is linked to the antigen or antibody which shows or which demonstrates the antigen or antibody reaction. This is the plate that is used for ELISA test. It has several wells. This plate has several wells. So a large number of samples can be tested with in this test, that is the ELISA test. So what do we perform in the ELISA test? In ELISA test we have an enzyme that is linked with the specific antigen and antibody, and in this reaction mixture we add a substrate, and this substrate gives a visible color to the reaction. So how do we perform this test? In this test, the antigen or antibody to be detected is already coated in the wells, and the patient's serum from which we want to detect the antigen or more commonly the antibody is added to this well. So antigen and antibody combines in the well, and the enzyme is already linked to it, and after the addition of substrate to this, a visible colored reaction is produced which is detected, which is grossly seen, and after that we add a stop solution to this reaction so that the reaction is not continued further, and we can determine the color change and measure and see whether it is positive or negative. Now depending on the type of the antigen, there are three different generations of ELISA test, that is first generation, second and third generation. In the first generation of ELISA test, the antigen used is directly disrupted or collected from the viruses. In the second generation ELISA test, the antigen we used are recombinant antigens, that is prepared by combining various kinds of antigens. And in the third generation antigen, we used chemically synthesized oligopeptides as antigens. So there are three different generations used depending on the type of the antigen. Now in the ELISA test, there are various kinds of ELISA that are routinely used. First is direct ELISA, indirect ELISA, sandwich ELISA, competitive ELISA and capture assay. And the various reagents that are used for ELISA test are antigen, antibody, then antibody that is linked to the enzyme, substrate and a stop solution. The enzyme more commonly used in the ELISA test are Horseradish peroxidase and alkaline phosphate, and the substrate that are more commonly used in ELISA test are paranitrophenol phosphate and O-phenylalanine diamine dihydrochloride. Okay, so two types of enzymes are more commonly used, that is horseradish peroxide and alkaline phosphatase, and substrates are paranitrophenol phosphate and O-phenylalanine diamine dihydrochloride. Okay, so this is ELISA test, and this is the plate that is more commonly used for ELISA. Now we will see Western blotting technique. What is Western blotting technique? Western blotting technique is most commonly used for HIV patients for diagnosis of HIV infection. In this test, the proteins from the patient's serum are separated by electrophoresis, and then these proteins are spread on a filter paper by blotting, and now the antibodies against these proteins, if they are present in patient's serum, then they will be attached to the various proteins when we spread the patient's serum on the blotting paper. So a specific visible reaction is seen where the antibody combines with these specific proteins, and a visible band or visible line is seen in this, which is called Western blotting test. And now we have several rapid tests which are available. So rapid tests are basically the lateral flow assay test. Lateral flow. So first is this test. This is a lateral flow assay test. In this we have, this can be done in a card or a cassette, a card or a cassette. What do we do in this reaction? The patient's serum is added in the cassette, and this is already in the cassette we have a In this cassette, we have a nitrocellulose membrane, and this cellulose membrane is coated with monoclonal antibodies. So, when patient's serum is added, if the antibodies are present, then they combine with this, and a visible line of precipitation is seen on the surface, which a colored band is seen, which shows a positive reaction. In this type of lateral flow assay test, we have two kinds of band. One is the control band and other is the test band. In the test band, we have monoclonal antibodies which are targeted against the antigen, and in the control line, we have anti-human antibodies which are coated. So, when patient's serum is added, a visible line of reaction will be seen if the test is positive. This type of card or cassette is most commonly used for HIV, HBsAg and HCV, that is HIV, hepatitis B and hepatitis C rapid tests. And for HIV test, we have other two tests. One is the TRIDOT test. The TRIDOT test has the same principle, that is the lateral flow assay, and it has a controlled band as well as the other two dots which we are used to differentiate between HIV-1 and HIV-2 test. So this is the TRIDOT test for HIV, and other one is the immunocomb assay. The immunocomb assay, in which we have a comb which has two dots. One is the control dot and other one is the test dot, and if the test is positive, both the dots, that is both the circles, will become positive, will show coloration, and if it is negative, then only the control dot will show color. So this is the comb which is used for HIV immunocomb assay.